Hey, welcome to the upstreamlife.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. I've got two wonderful people with me. I've got Saket with me. Hi, Saket.
Hey Vishal.
Hi, Pawan.
Hi, Visha.
Okay, these are great experts in their own field, and they're going to give their own introduction. Over to you, Saket.
So basically, I am a full-time options trader and also investor. More or less, my whole life revolves around markets.
Okay.
Right. So it's been almost a decade since I started in markets, and today it has become my full-time profession. So mostly my whole day revolves around dealing with economy, dealing with stocks, dealing with stock prices, and much more. So
There's a lot to discuss. Pawan.
CA by profession, set up ECL India 2011. We are close to 200-member team based out of India and the UAE. We have got the distinction of working with some amazing people, like both of you yourselves, right?
Thank you.
That's about me.
By the way, we're going to be talking stocks. We're going to talk economy, political economy. And as a journalist, I'm going to bring out what ticks the nation. And if you're a corporate, I help you tell stories. That's what Upstream does. Okay. Quickly, Saket, we are talking about India moving stock markets going over 80K now. It's huge. It's amazing, right? It's about 80K now, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
it? Then tell us a little bit about how Indians are investing, how many Indians are really investing, retail investors. Go for it.
So actually, if you take a look at it, so the stock market boom or investing in stock market really picked up post-COVID. So a lot of people actually tried out investing in stock market because post-COVID, the markets more or less bottomed out in April. So March, when a lockdown was announced, I think March 23rd or 21st of 2020, right? So that was when the bottom for the market was made. From then on, the market just started moving higher. So it made a low of around 7,500. Today, Nifty is trading somewhere around 25,000. It is almost 3x from where it was, right? So we have had a fantastic bull run in the last 4 years, and literally anything you touch would have turned into gold, right? And since a lot of people had free time and they wanted some additional source of income, a lot of people sought market as one of their preferred options. And they started coming into option trading, they started coming into investing. And now the thing is, it has become more or less a very common thing for anybody to come in and start investing in markets with all these raising awareness about the stock market. So today, if you take a look at it, so month on month, right? So there is almost around 25,000 crores of retail money coming into mutual funds, right? So people are literally doing SIP without thinking twice, right? And every month, whatever money they get, they're just putting into SIP. And the mutual fund industry as a whole is getting so much money that they have to put it somewhere. They can't keep cash, right? So this is literally forcing them to buy the stock price at any rate that is available because the money is just flowing in. And even if you take a look at it, somewhere even RBI is kind of worried that the bank savings is coming down and more and more is getting shifted to market. Okay. So that is one thing which even Shakti Kanta Das, the RBI governor, he had actually pointed out in his recent.
Totally, how many retail investors in India?
So total retail overall unique PANs is around 10 CR. Good. That is the total number of unique PAN what we have. But if you see, when you see in terms of active investors, right? So here the term active is very discretionary, I would say. Like it's very subjective, right? So you might be actively tracking markets, but in case if you haven't changed your portfolio for 1 year, you are still not considered as an active investor, right? So, but overall, 10 crore plus unique PANs, but around 3 crores like active investors who have actually traded in the last 1 year.
That's still small, 3% of, perhaps less than 3% of India's total population. Right. That means that's an opportunity and it'll further grow.
Definitely.
I want to quickly move to Pawan. Pawan, you've been advising companies. We want to talk about economy. On one level, Saket's painted a picture of how the stock markets are growing, the aspiration that Indians have to invest in the stock markets. Finally, that's growing, and the world likes it. There's a lot of domestic money going into stock markets, which is interesting. The companies that you advise, what's happening from an economy perspective?
So there's a lot of optimism for sure, because if you look at the economy as a whole, we are doing very well. We are moving fast. We are growing fast. There are certain key aspects that we look at, right? So be it infrastructure, be it the skill level of the public, be it the amount of money that is available, and also the regulators. So if you see the work that the RBI is doing or SEBI is doing, there is structural strength that has been built, right? So there is definitely a lot of optimism, and that optimism is carrying businesses forward. This is not just attracting people into business within India, but also bringing foreign capital into India. So India has become the GCC destination, so to say, of the world, right? Especially when it comes to specialized skills. Bangalore, as such, has done a remarkable job that way, right? Attracting a lot of foreign capital. So one, of course, if you see the economy, the growth itself, we will continue to be the fastest growing large economy. We are 5th in the world now, but close to Japan, very close to Japan, close to Germany. If all works well, we should be the 3rd largest very soon.
Okay, I want to set this in context. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've got what India is doing now. Young population, stock market's growing, Nifty is on an all-time high, Sensex on an all-time high. Companies doing very well, from SMEs all the way to foreign IT companies coming in. I wouldn't call them IT companies, they're captives. They're called GCCs. They're called capability centers, global capability centers. India, it's no longer about cost arbitrage. People are coming here to build core product. So that itself is a positive note. There are 1,700 GCCs, and it's expected to double in a few years. So we've set the opportunity in context. Zakir, to you, is India priced overly? I mean, are the valuations really absurd? And that scares me. And you could take that question after he answers as well, please.
If you take a look at it from a purely valuation standpoint, definitely yes. So we are trading at one of the, so in terms of the world, as well as in terms of India's historical valuation itself, so we are one among the highest, right? So the thing is, if you simply go and look at the P ratio of Nifty, which is considered to be one of the key valuation metric, right? So prior to 2021, right? So the P which NSE published was on a standalone basis. So they weren't publishing the consolidated numbers. So post 2021, they started publishing on a consolidated basis. So even though it might look smaller on a consolidated basis, but when you compare standalone historically, we are literally much more or equal to what we were around 2007, 2008. But does it call for a crash? I might not think so, because the fundamentals of the whole thing is quite different from what it was.
You want to explain that? What are the fundamentals, and why are they very? I'm assuming that as a strong foundation, and that's the fundamentals you're talking about. Right. What are they?
So the thing is, one was like what happened during 2007, 2008 was cheap credit. So there was over leveraging in the entire real estate market, and which led a lot of investment banks to fail, and because they had sold all these the bond, like low rated bonds, subprime mortgages.
Absolutely. That was a crisis in 2008.
Right. So usually things get triggered with one or the other factor as such overall. If you take a look at 2000, even if you go back to the Great Depression of 1930s, right? So actually, if you take a look at that period, it was post World War I where the stock market started to rise. That is 1918 onwards, it started to go up. And that was the first time where even women community as a whole started investing. Absolutely. So till then, there was no women involvement in stock market. And plus they started giving leverage. So that was the first time when margin...
Real estate leverage.
Stock leverage to markets.
Oh my God.
Right? So that was the first time the whole concept of margin in stock market was introduced. Right? So this led to people using excessive leverage to buy stocks at whatever value. Right? And that overall sometime ended up busting and
and then what happened was the Great Depression, 29 onwards all the way to 33, 34.
Exactly.
That was a scary situation. Do you see that happening in India? No, it won't.
No, actually, if you take a look at it, so it's not a scenario where we have gone up so much. If you take a look at it from 2021-22, we were the index as a whole was hardly up by 4%.
Yes.
22-23 maybe around 7-8%.
Yes.
23, the entire calendar year 23, we are up by 20%. And this year we are up by 15%. So it's not that we have grown
Like
at an
50%.
extraordinary...
Yeah, correct. So it's saying normal. It's normal.
It's normal, but valuation-wise, only thing is, again, like how Pawan mentioned, that there is a good growth story which is expected to play out in India. So that's the reason a lot of funds are actually moving into India, right? So the only thing is, if at a larger space where the economic policies don't really support businesses or they're not in favor of business, that time you really see a lot of capital outflow happen. And that's when where the kind of growth what you're expecting, the 1970s, 1980s growth of US, where you saw a massive boom in the whole economy. So that is where more or less people are saying India stands today.
It's
right?
interesting. Very interesting. Go on. You're saying,
but in case if that doesn't turn out the way people are expecting, then we are surely headed for a massive correction.
Okay, brilliant point. He set the expectation in order. I think people are coming here because they expect certain fundamentals to stay, which is young population. Our companies, they're expecting more from Indian companies. You work with over 200 companies. So you would have seen certain growth factors. Your firm itself has grown over the last 14 years, right? So what are those fundamentals from a company perspective, policy perspective, compliance perspective that you've noticed with your clients that India is poised to grow, and therefore it corroborates well with his thought process and markets growing, and therefore capital coming into India from abroad and also domestic capital participating. Your thoughts?
Got it. So we mostly work with service companies, and these are foreign subsidiaries.
Absolutely.
So that forms the core of our clients. So 200 companies that we have are mostly foreign subsidiaries. On top of that, we would have another 200, which would be Indian startups, mature startups, or domestic companies. But the principal reason why most of these companies are coming to India is because of the exceptional talent that India has. And that ties into the young population, because you have a young population that's exceptionally skilled. Of course, we also have other metrics. We say our population our youth needs to be better skilled, but at least the ones who are skilled are good at what they're doing for the costs that these companies will have to pay. So for the same amount of money that they would have to spend outside of India, they're getting far better talent. So that is one clear distinction as far as services are concerned. Now, as far as non-service areas are concerned, specifically, let us say industry, manufacturing, we still need to walk a couple of more steps before we are actually able to create an image of a leader in the world. Of course, because we also have China, right? And China is the largest manufacturer, so to say. It will be very difficult to compete with China as far as manufacturing concerned. So if you take manufacturing, even if you take manufacturing, you still have bright spots, right? You have investments that are coming into India because of the China Plus One policy. Now, world over, they want to look at an alternative to this manufacturing megalith, so to say, right? They want an alternative to it. Southeast Asian countries, of course, are
so that's the China Plus.
China Plus, right? So we are benefiting, of course, if our land reforms, if our labor reforms were in a much better, stronger form or shape, we'll be able to attract more talent, more money, even in the manufacturing space, right? So that's on services and manufacturing. Now, if you look at the compliance aspects of it, from what it used to be 10 years ago and what it is today, for sure we have seen simplification. One of the largest legal changes when you see regulatory, we see is GST.
Yes.
And GST certainly is a game changer for us, right? It is complex, it is cumbersome, it is not ideal, but it is still much better than what it used to be. And that for sure adds to the certainty of doing business in India. Corporate law, again, it has gone through a change in 2013. Now, again, the anticipation is that things will get better, but it is in much better shape that it used to be. The finance structure itself, the banking structure with UPI, with everybody using mobile, and with this huge population that wants to now spend, that now wants to invest. And there is a change in the mindset. If you see a couple of generations before us, the mindset was to save as much as possible, right, and spend less. But if you look at the population that's today, the younger population, they're willing to consume. That may be also one of the reasons taking the point about the Great Depression forward and some of these recessions, they're also caused because of the lack of willingness to spend. Again, theory is that when inflation is too low, there is no incentive for you to spend because you will wait for the prices to fall. Why would you spend today? But when there is healthy inflation And what's what the RBI refers to is the band, right? If you have healthy inflation, you would be willing to consume today if you have money in the pocket, rather than just leave that money lying in the bank. So we are seeing that benefit as well. People willing to spend. And so as long as people are willing to spend, companies will certainly profit, because India itself offers a huge domestic market. We have to learn a way to compete with China in the exports market too, but domestic market is huge. So with these points, if you tie them all together, for sure we present ourselves as a very strong economy.
Quickly, before I go to Saket again, I want to know GST had a strong resistance in many countries. For example, in Malaysia, there was a great resistance to it. But somehow, Indians have embraced it, embraced the complexity. I'm hinting at accountability and transparency, which is also why a lot of money is coming into India, right? It certainly works. It's cumbersome, but it works. Would you say that institutions have to become accountable, transparent, and therefore that institutional transformation comes down to our younger youth now saying, hey, I want to grow, I want to invest in markets, I see transparency, I want to do something with my money, I want to reinvest my money rather than hoard it somewhere. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the key areas that link to transparency is governance. So even if you look at the existing corporate laws, SEBI's requirements, they require you to be so transparent that the governance requirements are so high. I think one of the best in the world. Right? Of course, you have incidents that happen, but they happen all over the world. But if you see our governance structures, at least the expectation from large listed companies is that you need to be transparent to your shareholders. And that naturally gives a lot of confidence to the public. Even in the MSME space, one of the reasons why GST has been so successful is the implementation using technology. So you're able to tie transactions together and the leakages are avoided. And which is what is meant by increasing the tax base. You can increase and widen the tax base, which will then either force people to be part of the tax structure, and the tax structure forces you to be far more transparent. And that way, if businesses, if you look at a value chain, if you have 3 people participating in a value chain, and even if one of them does not want to be transparent or has weak governance systems, the other 2 are able to act as a counterweight, identify these weaknesses, and either by way of enforcement or by way of advisory, so to say, from even the government or the notices that are sent, they pull their game up.
Okay, got it. Saket, coming to you. You advise a lot of family offices, and family offices, obviously, in the old days, used to go buy a plot of real estate outside of the country. But today they're saying, let me participate in the stock markets. I want you to give thoughts on these. One is family offices. And the second is, how should young people, that's a pet peeve of Pawan and me, because we want young people to invest wisely. So 2 parts. How are family offices buying into the India story? 1. Second, how should individuals, younger people, start investing and not treat this as gambling? That's an important subject. Please.
So actually, so I was recently speaking with one, and the thing is, the whole idea of market as a gamble, right, or like market as a gambling tool is slightly going away as time progresses. So they are not looking as, okay, you put your money into market, you're basically gambling. Okay. So I know one person who is actually ready to move out of all the real estate investment and bring it back to markets. The reason why is simply because of it's easier to deal with markets, right? So you don't have to deal with people, right? So it's easier to deal with much more liquidity, much more transparency.
Yes.
So it basically provides everything at once. So stock market as a whole is much more matured than a real estate market in terms of providing liquidity and transparency, right? So that is in one space. And coming to retail investors who are coming new to the market, right? So for them, liquidity is never a concern, right? So whatever they're willing to put in, the markets can easily absorb that, right? But the thing is, so like what really happens is when there is a huge capital, right? So they often tend to stick to equities only because F&O as a segment, even today, might not offer the kind of liquidity you want for a larger capital base, right? You will be restricted to doing a very few things with F&O. But when you come with a smaller capital, you have that flexibility to do whatever you want with options, futures, whatnot. So this again is a big issue because derivative trading as a whole is not something which is wealth creating, right? So it is just a transfer of money from one person to another. So trading as a whole, right? So investing is where you can actually create wealth.
Well said. You got to draw the difference.
Yeah.
So what Saket's trying to say is invest in equity because it's investing. If you want to do the F&O, it's trading, it's algorithmic. The larger companies have the power of algorithms to outbeat the returns. So there's a difference in trading and investing.
Absolutely.
Right? So you want to set that in context quickly?
Sure, I will. Yeah, so basically in trading, what really happens is two people are betting against each other. So there is no way that it should be either I make money or you make money. So there is no way that both of us can make money. So let's say on an intraday basis, I sell the stocks and you purchase the same stocks on an intraday basis. So then what is more or less happening is if the stock price is going to go up, you make money.
Yes.
And the same money I'm going to lose.
Yes.
And if the stock goes down, the same thing happens, vice versa. But with investing, that is not the case. So you're buying an asset. So if, let's say you have got an IPO at 100 rupees, you sell it to somebody at 200 rupees.
That's an upside.
Yes, that's an upside of 100%. So now let's say a person who bought it at 200, now the price goes to 400, 500. So you only have an opportunity cost. You don't have a monetary loss. So there is only opportunity loss. So that's why they say investing creates wealth, because the asset value is going up, and whoever is a part of this journey of this asset moving higher, everybody gets to benefit. But in trading, it's the opposite, right? So only one of us can make money. It's either you or me. And person having a better infrastructure is having a higher chance or higher probability of making money. And now when you're actually trying to fight with institutions with thousands of crores who have put into like servers or put into
So that's your advice, young people. Don't do the F&O. Because it's a big company's game, algorithmic game. Unless they build a trading organization like that, they shouldn't do it.
I would suggest so because historically, like as per what SEBI has published, 90% of the F&O traders haven't actually been profitable.
Wow, 90% are not profitable.
90% are not profitable.
Don't do F&O as an individual.
Yeah,
That's good.
and 99% of the people who have done F&O aren't able to beat FD returns. That means they haven't made a profit of more than 6 to 7% in the whole thing.
I hope young people are watching this because this is the difference in investment and trading. Please invest in stocks and save your money rather than go and
trade.
trade. Okay.
So, and this is the other factor, and one more fact. And
Please.
the third fact is in the last financial year, that is 23-24, 63,000 crore of retail money has been transferred. Like you can literally say transferred, because 63,000 crores a crore of money has been lost by retailers, which means it would have either gone to one of the institutions, one of the HFTs.
$8 billion
$8 billion
lost from India.
Indian retailers.
So this is individuals have lost $8 billion.
Yeah.
That's newspaper headlines.
So it could have actually gone to one of the Indian institutes.
Yeah, I got it.
So it need not be a
So
foreign.
you're basically saying the institutions are making money, not the individual.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the bet you guys took.
Absolutely.
And you should be well informed. And guys like Saket are there to tell you about it. I want you to ask them. You remember we went to UP, Pawan?
Yeah. So
And there you noticed that young people wanted to do F&O for whatever reasons. And you said, please don't do it. Why is that happening with young people? Why do you think, or do you want to pose that question to him?
yeah, maybe, and at least in UP, the place that we had gone to, it was a smaller village, but one of the problems the youngsters they were facing was unemployment. They were not able to get the job for what they had studied. So they had a couple
And he
of...
was a double graduate.
Oh, yes.
He was a double
And he was looking for a government job. Again, government jobs are limited, so there are so many people vying for a few number of jobs. So two issues that we see here clearly are: one, your education system, and are you training people for jobs that are relevant? And two, jobs themselves, right? Because they become quite advanced. Now, you need as many people as you used to, so the number of people come down steadily. So what happens to the youngsters? One of the reasons why they take up F&O is it's easy. At least they believe it is easy money, quick money.
Okay.
What does it pay for? I have no idea.
I don't know.
But they lose money if 63,000 crore
but-
has been lost.
Yeah, but it is. Think
It's
of
not
it.
a loss where it's gone to another Indian, many
Yeah,
Indian
maybe-
Or
businesses.
even
but not-
foreign.
Yeah, maybe, yes.
But it also stems from uncertainty, right? If you have a job in hand, maybe you have certain cash flows that come to you each month. But with trading or with even F&O for that matter, it's one bet that you'd want to make every day.
Yeah.
And at least the image or impression that's being created amongst the youngsters is you make big money. Because there are others who tell you that they're making big money. But like Saket mentioned, there are very few people who actually make money.
Okay.
One more interesting thing here is I will tell you where most of the money gets lost. So in the center, it's a zero-sum game. Either you make money or I make money. But it actually becomes a negative-sum game where nearly 30 to 40% of the total gross profit goes away in taxes and charges.
Which is true.
Right. So assuming that you're making 100 rupees,
Yeah.
so you are technically making only 50 rupees.
Because there's long-term capital gains tax and short-term.
No, but in F&O it becomes more. It's treated as business income and
Okay.
you straight away are taxed at 30%.
Okay.
Or
Is that the number, Pawan?
Yeah, it depends on your
Yeah.
stance.
Okay.
It is treated as business.
Yeah, it's treated as business
So
income.
50% goes away. Think about
and
in
then-
taxes.
No, not just in tax that per se, but I'm telling in a gross level itself. Like let's say as soon as you do any transaction, you have to pay exchange transaction charge, stamp duty, STT. Then you have to pay turnover charges. Then on that you have to pay GST. Then there is a separate SEBI charge plus brokerage. So there is almost 7 to 8 charges which add up, right? So technically, if you're making around 100 rupees, right? So you'll be literally left with around 70 rupees. But if you keep repeating that, it will come to around 50%. Plus, let's say on that you have to pay the income tax as well, right? So now the issue is when you're losing, this 100 rupees turns out to become 150, 160 rupees. But when you make it, it gives you only 50 rupees.
Yeah.
So now for the same 100 rupees you are making, right? When you're making, you're getting 50. When you're losing 150.
Wow.
So just think about the percentage of bets you have to get it right
Oh, man.
to make up. So if you get 2 bets right for every 1 bet, still you're at a loss, right? So for example, you make 50
That's-
plus 50, but 1 wrong bet.
That's on the F&O.
Yeah, that's
That's
it.
on the F&O.
Yeah.
That's an important thing. I quickly want you to tell me about influencers. A lot of the kids watch influencers and say, hey, I mean, that's why they put out this circular saying that we need to regulate influencing. And I'm glad you're one of those people who've said that, look, we are not here to influence you because a lot of people follow you on YouTube. How would you rate these people?
So actually, if you take a look at it, Vishal, so the real question is why exactly a person is into the markets, right? So the thing is, most of the influencers, if you take a look at it, so biggest of the biggest names have actually been exposed once this whole part of verified P&L as a whole came to the picture. The thing is, most of the people, so I know a lot of traders who aren't profitable, but making crores and crores by selling courses, right? So now, how do you sell courses? The only way to do that is to make people aspire to be like you, make people aspire to show profits like you. So how can you show profits when you're not making it? You can simply use edited screenshots, edited this thing,
Wow.
and tell
That
people-
is scary.
Yeah, that is true. That is actually scary. So now you show people a fake image of yourself making a lot of profit, right? And then you tell, okay, why don't you take up my course? I'm going to teach you how to make this, right? And it's not that they're not going to teach in a course. They're going to teach fundamental basic stuff, which is well available everywhere, but doesn't work, right? So most of them, like very big names on YouTube, everybody would know them. But there are a few very big names who are extremely genuine also.
Why have you always maintained that this is not right? I mean, this kind of how people are showcasing and building their own brand,
Right.
and really not. But people are falling for it. This is because is there a way to regulate it?
See, I don't think so, because
You said that can never be
no,
regulated.
it
Yeah.
can be. But the thing is, see, end of the day, why do you want to have such an open financial market to restrict, to build further restrictions, right? So today you claim that you're open to everybody, right? But isn't the whole point of financial market in India is to keep it accessible?
Correct.
Now, if you start building restrictions based on income group, or you start building restrictions on capital, so then
At least on this influencers thing.
influencers, they have started to take some regulator this thing that you need to have RA certification from
What is that?
SEBI
You want to say what
recommend
is that
stock.
RA certification?
So RA is basically a research analyst certification from SEBI, or there is IA, which is investment advisory certification from SEBI. So or RIA, or that is called as registered investment advice. So these people can officially recommend stocks or do a lot of things, but still it does not give you any, it doesn't save you from selling any kind of courses, because you're basically doing it for education purpose. So anybody can create any educational content, and you can't put a restriction on that. Why people fall? Very simply because they need money, and markets is the quickest. So see, if everybody had just seen a downside, they would have left markets long back, right? So nobody would have come to markets. But what really happens is, when you start with 50,000, you don't go to zero directly. You will first go to 2 lakh, 3 lakh, or even 5 lakh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once your 50,000 becomes 5 lakh, now you have that greed. Now you want to do something with that money. And then eventually you go back to zero. And this always gives you a sense of hope. I have made it once. I will try to do it once more. So you somehow try to arrange one more 50,000, put it to the market. You go to 1, 2 lakh, but you want to make this 2 into 20, but this time again you. So this cycle keeps on repeating, because it doesn't show you failures at the
So
very
you're saying
beginning.
it's okay. It's okay because it's good to sell courses, but that they can continue with it. But you should not have restrictions on the markets and investments.
No, see, it's like, it's very subjective again.
Yes.
See, now people know that 99% of the CA aspirants, IAS aspirants, don't pass, right?
So they go sell courses.
No, not they sell courses, but is it wrong to sell courses
it's
to
not
IA?
wrong.
Is
It's
it
not.
wrong to teach
No.
people who are aspiring to be IAS?
Absolutely, it's not. I agree
But
with you.
you can't guarantee success.
Absolutely.
But is it wrong to teach them how it is to be done? Maybe not every single person who is teaching or would be qualified enough, or would be a rank holder who would be coming and
No,
teaching.
really well said and point taken, because you're saying that follow, but learn.
Yeah.
But the risk is yours.
Yeah, it's
You-
mostly a capitalistic
Yes.
approach, I would say.
Yes.
You're basically trying to make the best use of the demand that is available, right?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of people want to become IAS. You're selling IAS courses, right? So if you're teaching well, good enough.
Why not?
Like whether the student is going to succeed or not is not 100% upon you.
Absolutely. No, Saket, point taken. Moving to you, taxes. You mentioned, if you lose, the taxes are so high, you may end up losing 150. Otherwise, you just make 50, because the taxes are very high when you make money. And there's LTCG, there is short-term capital gain, then there is income tax. Between all that, India is growing. My friends in the USA, when, in the old days, US was a barometer, right, of anything. So they have high inflation. I thought the Indian market will go down. They didn't go down. Japan has started tightening rates now, right? The markets in India still grew. It's a very strange thing. Indians themselves are a little, it's like in the old days, our cricket team wouldn't believe in itself, right? It took a Ganguly, then a Dhoni, and then Virat to change things, right? And now Rohit, of course. If you use that analogy, because Indians understand cricket, we are getting there in the market side. How about the compliance? Do you think we should loosen the grip a little bit in terms of the rates? Because food inflation is very high in India. We talked about inflation earlier. So what are your thoughts? What will change the game? I know a lot of young aspirants follow Saket and say, I want to invest and do this. But what about the company side in terms of the taxes? I remember this ex-BharatPe founder, he went on and said, he said in Hindi that a lot of people don't even make money in India because 50% goes away in taxes. I want you to break that down and say why, or set a proper context. Is it needed, not needed? Should we loosen? Should we tighten? What should India do?
So there are two kinds of taxes.
Yes.
You have direct tax and you have indirect tax. Direct tax is the tax that we pay on our income earnings. Indirect tax is GST.
Yes.
We have customs, we have still some excise, but let's focus more on GST. Now, if you look at these two, during the budget is when, because the finance minister is on the podium speaking prominently, visible, and there are all media outlets giving attention to the finance minister. Unfortunately, that whole exercise becomes something that you can target. And you can say that taxes are very high in India. I'm paying a lot of money. I'm losing a lot of money, but I'm not getting anything back. This is my personal opinion that I think the finance minister is the wrong person to be held accountable. You need to look at maybe at your municipal level or state level why our roads are so bad, or why they are open drains.
Yeah, where's the money going?
Exactly. So maybe the finance minister is not the one to be answering those questions, right? It's her job to look at how money is best put to use. And to be honest, I think she's doing a reasonably good job.
Okay.
The greatest angst comes from the fact that you're not getting these services for what you're paying. Now, if you look at direct and indirect tax, a small fraction of the country is paying direct tax, right? Because first of all, your income levels aren't that high. If you're earning $1 lakh a month, you're amongst the top 10% of India. And some numbers today say top 5% of India,
Right.
because the income inequality itself is so high. Amongst that category, you also have people who are dabbling in the stock market, who make gains some days and they end up paying tax. Naturally, they'll have to pay tax when they make gains. But if you look at direct tax, it's a small fraction of the country that is paying income tax. But then does it mean that the rest of them do not have the right to seek better services? The answer is no, because they're still paying indirect tax, which is the second head, GST. Everybody is paying GST in some form or the other. So everybody is paying taxes. So for sure, we deserve a better life. But if you look at direct tax and you compare India with other countries, developed countries, our direct tax rates are quite low. It is, I'll not say that they are very, very high, but it is comparable. It is not what is meant to be, it's not what you see in the press or on social media platforms that...
You care to explain this?
Yeah, so if you look at the average tax rates, even if you look at companies are paying an average tax rate of about 20%, 21%, right? And there's one central law, the Income Tax Act, and that money is paid to the central government. But if you look at the US, you have taxes both at the central level and at the state level. And it's a complex tax structure. Things work there because people are getting services. But of course, now they are also going through their struggles.
Yeah.
But coming back to India, the tax that we are paying as far as companies are concerned, you also have beneficial tax rates of as low as 15% and to encourage manufacturing. There are certain deductions that are available, there are exemptions that are available. So the average tax rate is still quite low. Now, unless we extend the tax base, unless we make it wide enough that there's enough money coming to the government and it is spent properly, if people start getting the services, if you start seeing better roads, if you start seeing better healthcare, if you start seeing better education facilities being provided, you may not complain much. Because today what's happening is, in addition to tax, you're also paying out of your pocket. More on education and healthcare, right? So you're still paying out of pocket for these services, which certain countries are able to provide from the tax that they collect. So there's a lot of angst because you're not getting what you're paying for.
Right. I want to quickly ask you this. Young people, when they come to your platform and they leave the comments, what are their aspirations about India? And especially in the stock, what is their psychology? And you should talk about it from the founders and companies' perspective. Sure. What are they thinking? And you can stick it to taxes, because then it's about the taxes, it's about compliance and procedures, state law versus central law. Okay? Go on.
So actually, the thing is, they are in a state where maybe the similar thing had happened to me when I came to markets in 2013. So that's when India, or global market as a whole, was coming out of the 2008 recession and was starting to make a new high. Right? 2000, somewhere late 2013, we made a fresh high, breaking 5,000 and all. Nifty.
Yes.
So the thing is, that's more or less the time when I also entered into markets. And the thing is, till 2015, that is 13, 14, 15, right? I had only seen the market go up. So I never had an idea, okay, markets can even come down or...
So your generation's actually not seen the markets go down.
Absolutely.
Correct?
And the thing is, what's even bad is, in the last 1 year, right, almost 1.5 years, at any point in time, invest in any month, it doesn't matter. So you don't have to wait more than a month for your investments to turn profitable. right? So that means if you had put in January, the max you had to wait till was end of February, and by March your investments would be profitable. So even during, let's say, when the election results didn't turn out the way polls had suggested, or maybe the budget also,
Yes.
the finance minister ended up increasing tax. None of them are positive news. But in spite of that, the reactions what market showed was very temporary. It was back the very next day.
agreed.
Right? And this has given a false sense of hope that, okay, the markets might not fall at all. Because
Oh my. So you're saying young people have that in their head now?
absolutely. And the thing is, it's a...
You're playing the devil's advocate to your own crowd.
Yeah. It's a proven fact that in the bull market, right? So a person who is coming new to the market always tends to make better returns than any of the experienced veterans in the market. The reason is very simply because, right? People who are experienced in the market would have tend to see in some stocks which are very bad, which wouldn't have performed, but they would have suddenly started going up. And people who, like, as soon as any big dip comes, these people don't fear putting more money, but you fear putting in extra money. So all these factors in a bull market, because as soon as a dip comes, the more you put in, the market is going to recover and reward you more. So it is almost impossible for any veteran investor to beat a newbie in a bull market. But eventually, in a slightly longer run, when the market actually starts to come down, that's where people who haven't put in quality stocks, people who haven't invested in good companies will actually start to get hit. And that's when the outperformance by a stock market veteran only comes during the bad phase. He can never beat a person in a good phase.
Got it. Got it. That's a very interesting thought he's put in. And that's how young people should also realize, think about markets, very basic fundamentals. And this is a primer. This is a good place to introduce your channel. What's it called?
So currently I have my social media under my own name, that is called as Saket. But I...
At Saket?
Yeah, at Saket15 on Instagram, at Saketar on YouTube.
And that's a great place for you guys to get a primer on markets, primer on what you really need to think of when it's investing or trading. So therefore, if you look at it, he's a consummate professional because he's not talked about stock. He's not trying to influence you to get somewhere. He is basically talking basics and fundamentals that you have to get right to win. Right? I think say similar with you in BCL as a partner here, you're advising companies.
Yeah.
What are their thoughts about this space, the country?
At least, like I said at the beginning, they're optimistic. Now, if you look at the three phases of the journey, any businessman...
And you've seen India grow as a business as well, right? Levin, where were we? The word startup was not heard of in the press. That, these startups,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I will tell you, Pawan, budget 2013, there was only once, I think the previous government only once mentioned the word startup. It was only from 2014, the word startup was used at least 25 times. From 1 to 25, that's a big jump.
Absolutely. I think it's because the ecosystem has now been established and we are seeing the benefit of the people who have taken the first plunge, having gotten an exit. So you have Indians with experience and wealth who are willing to bet on other startups, right? At least in the 2010s, when we just started off, we had very few people who were willing to take a bet on first-time entrepreneurs. There were these brave funds, there were people from outside of India. But today, thankfully, we have a lot of Indians who've gotten exits, who also had the experience of running firms, have done exceptionally well in life, who are now willing to bet on other entrepreneurs, right? So that ecosystem is in place. Also, from a government standpoint, I think they clearly realize that they cannot be creating jobs at the same pace as they used to. We cannot expect the government to create jobs. It is up to the business industry to create jobs.
Sure.
And the driver, at least for the next coming years, not just in India, across the world, will be startups, will be entrepreneurs. And these are entrepreneurs who've always been there. They are just getting into the formal sector, so to say, right? So back to the three phases and the expectation from the regulators. If you look at the incorporation, that is the creation of company, running the company, and finally shutting down a company, right? So incorporation, running, and similar.
So there are more companies registered now.
Yeah, they are registered. But if you look at these three phases, maybe like a Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, right? If you look at these three phases, right?
From creation to destruction.
If you look at these three phases, right? So if you look at the creation, we have come a long way from what we used to have. But of course, the process can be simplified further. Today, with incorporation, you're getting tax identification numbers, you're getting social security numbers, insurance numbers, which is a great move. There are certain state level laws also which can be absorbed within the incorporation process. The incorporation process itself can be simplified. That is one. If you look at running the operations, you can look at two different segments, which is say services and industry. Services, they do not face a lot of heat when it comes to regulation. They mostly deal with GST. That is the main law that they're going to deal with. But if you look at trading or if you look at manufacturing, in addition to GST, you're also looking at local laws. For example, pollution control.
Yes.
You're looking at trade licenses. You're looking at maybe sometimes excise laws. You're looking at customs. So they're dealing with different kinds of regulators. And most of the time, the issue is not with the legislators or the intent of the law. It is the way it is implemented, right? The bureaucracy below.
Yeah.
And if there can be a bit of empathy that can be introduced within the bureaucracy, I'm sure we'll do much better. Exits, coming to the last phase, again, much better than what it used to be. Getting a company closed is a much faster process today. You can shut down a company within 6 months. It used to take years. But again, people are making genuine efforts to make this process smoother. So if you see on all three counts, you're doing well, but we can certainly do better.
I want to talk about both your companies, but before that, I want to talk about, again, we're all patriots. And I think that India should not derail itself, but we are in a very special moment. Either we become like how America grew, but with a lot of transparency and accountability, we can get there, right? What can derail India? Let's set that in context, because we've only been talking positive about our country, that this is happening, that is happening. Young people coming to the workforce, that is where I'm scared. Education, skilled jobs.
Skills, yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
So again, if you take a look at it from the different aspects which can actually cause things to change, right? So one, so if you take from the economic standpoint, one is, as you mentioned, the unemployment, which is an increasing issue. Again, like how Pawan mentioned, it's not completely the fault of the government, because the number of, we know we have the youngest population. There are like literally millions of graduates passing out every year. And it is not so easy for somebody to create millions of new vacant jobs every year and fill in that position. Because if we have the youngest population where I think 70% is below 30.
Yes.
Our average population.
You got it right. It's below 30, yes.
Yeah, 30 or 35, something like that, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, the median age is 28 still.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So most of these people, so then you can just imagine the kind of or amount of jobs you would require going forward also. Right. So this is one major issue where, like, I feel people should be more open to an entrepreneurial mindset rather than just focusing, okay, I need to study and get a job. So this one, so if they want an entrepreneurial mindset, the first thing they have to focus on skill, right? So the skill again comes down to the whole part of education. Today, I feel what we study in primary and high school education is, or even in terms of graduation, right? So whatever we study is highly like unusable in a real workplace, right? So nothing you study can actually, you can directly go and start directly using it in a work. So just imagine in a time when there is AI, I just came across a syllabus which is teaching how to use Word, all this.
You're reading my mind. I was about to come to AI. So
right.
there's AI teaching?
Not AI teaching. So people like the teachers as a computer science class teaching how to use Word. So tools of Microsoft Word. So this is the kind of computer science that is being taught in school when the things...
The world's moved to AI.
Yeah,
You're saying we're not relevant. Oh,
yeah,
got it.
exactly.
Yes. So in the world of AI, we're still in the what's taught 20 years ago.
Yeah,
That's
20 years
scary.
ago, how exactly to use a word. Right? So this is one issue, right? And second one is, again, so this is just from the whole skill point and
Yes.
other point.
So relevance of the skill is important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel as a country to grow completely or do very well, so the most important thing is communal harmony. So that is what is observed within all successful nations, right? So even though there might be differences, so everybody together as a whole should work towards the growth of the nation, right? So just to give you an example, right? So if you take a look at from 1947 when we got independence, right? So there has not been a single decade, right, where we haven't had trouble, right? So anytime we come, we have had multiple wars, we have had terror attacks, we have had XYZ. So natural disasters. So you name it. We have had economic crisis. Everything India has gone through, but nothing has actually stopped the growth of the nation, right? So the moment people's focus shifts from doing something good for the country to fighting amongst themselves, right? So that is something which is that is a mindset change. It is not a change of any.
I
this
got
thing.
what you mean.
Yeah,
That,
like it
that
should-
young people are aspiring to change.
Yeah,
Right.
like something where I was coming across posts. If it is done by a certain community, I won't buy anything from that business. So
Yeah.
that is not how whole
business works,
economy
yes.
should work, right? So I think so this is one more very important factor for a country to succeed, right? So that is one, and the economic aspect, social aspect, and the economic
That's really
aspect.
well said. The culture's at home, but when your business, be open-minded. So that's a very interesting point that you make. So that has to change. Number
So
one.
more on what else, it shouldn't go the wrong way. It's not bad, no, but definitely it shouldn't go the wrong
So
way.
relevance of skill, making sure that all Indians unite and do well for the country. That's the second one that you mentioned. Very, very, very well put. And what about you, Pawan? What do you think?
I completely agree with him. In addition to, say, AI, skill learning, and of course the communal social harmony that we need, a couple of points that I can think of. Population. I think our populations, it's too big. It is too huge for us to be able to manage a population of this size. Cities, there are a handful of them, to be honest. Even today, we can just count them on our hands. They are congested, infrastructures crumbling because of the population. And I don't know what's up with legislators or those who aspire to be legislators. They are just throwing stuff at the population just to make sure they stay in power or get to power. Right?
Subsidies.
It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, of course, the population just going to keep increasing up to 2050, 2060. And
So you're saying subsidies are okay, but to keep them poor and not let them grow is meaningless.
Yeah, it's a complicated question
Yes.
to answer, to be honest.
Yes.
But for sure, the answer cannot be throwing money mindlessly at the public.
I have this saying, right? You can't be a mother who spoils your children and expect the home to grow in the future.
Exactly.
Right?
And this home is growing.
Yes.
And it's growing. It will continue to grow to
Yes.
2050, 2060. I do not know how we are going to manage a population this size with food crisis, with water crisis. And water and food are real
And the
crisis.
geriatric crisis. There'll be 250
Absolutely.
million old people.
Absolutely, right?
And broken families.
Yes.
Atomized families.
Absolutely.
It's going to
add
be
to that,
scary.
the-
And people are living longer.
Yes,
Healthcare.
yes. Add to that climate change.
Yes. Climate
Which
change.
is the second aspect, right?
Oh, and food inflation on
and
top of that.
is going to impact both food and water. India, at the position that it is, very close to the equator, and the heat waves that we see, the excessive rainfall that we see
Yes.
sometimes, landslides that we see, even say the foot of Himalayas, we're going to see quite a lot of chaos, and that's being perpetuated by climate change. And we're going to see more of that. Unfortunately, we are going to see more of it because of the position that we are in. This is the decade, or the following decades, are when we'll have to capitalize on manufacturing. We'll have to focus on activities that can absorb population, but that is also intense,
Interesting.
right? In the say.
Interesting. Job creation, making sure that investments come, making sure that we are sustainable
Correct.
to the environment.
Exactly. The first two within the boundaries of sustainability. How do we achieve that? How do we create jobs? How do we create manufacturing? How do we absorb this population? How do we create enough commodities, goods of high quality, not just for India but
Yeah.
the world, but within the sphere of sustainability? Right?
I think our generation today thinks through these things. Execution is the problem, I think.
I think all of us are part of the generation. We are thinking about it. So I hope more people think about it. But I don't know what the solution is.
I feel like what Pawan mentioned about climate is actually a very big issue, but it's because it's so something which doesn't affect you directly, you don't get to know, right? So no matter you build the best things ever, right? You build all the best thing ever, assuming that 1 year it doesn't rain,
Yeah.
right?
I've seen the pinch in Bangalore.
Yeah. So
I've seen multiple fights in Bangalore.
like forget about the drinking water. There's, let's say there's a drought and they don't have food, right? So all the whole economy is on the fact that there is inflation, right? So
Yes.
like the inflation.
Just to add to that point, the point you spoke about. Now, if you have to fight for food and water, and you now bring in a complex social structure that we have and a communal structure that we have, just imagine the kind of tinderbox that you're sitting on, right? So, what is going to happen if you have to fight with each other for food and water, which we've already seen? You're seeing glimpses of it. What is going to happen over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years? What kind of future are we creating forget the generation that's already there, for the generation that's now coming into this world, right? Is this the country that they should aspire to be living in for the next 70-80 years? It is a question that we really need to answer.
I can see that flag in India. I think you are a patriot at heart, and therefore you're saying this. And I'm sure, Saket, all three of us are representing the mood of the moment. Great companies coming into India, great companies being created in India for the world. Young people aspire to do brilliant things, but fix these chinks. The chinks in the armor are relevance in education, relevance in job, or being a business person. Think business, also think solutions rather than just get a job, like Saket mentioned. And you've been mentioning that think sustainability. How can you live your infrastructure, make sure that that is transferred? Where is your tax money going? Be a little more, the legislator should be a little more aware of these things, because I think the pool of taxes, money is going, I think this is the first time where income tax has been indirect tax.
The income tax of individuals has
beaten the corporate
tax.
Absolutely.
It's been happening since 2019. So naturally, individuals are going to ask for better services.
It's better we do.
Yeah, we need more cities, to be honest, Vishal. If you think about it, when was the last planned city set up, created in India? India is a massive country, right? Massive country. When was the last time?
Chandigarh, last.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe after that, a few more cities cropped up.
Amravati, I don't know.
Maybe
planned. It's
but
not
it's
completed.
gone. It's gone under the radar, under the water also in many ways.
Right? So, if you think about it, when was the last time that we created a city?
Not yet.
When
Even
are
our
we-
locality was planned.
Exactly.
But
When are
not
we going
anymore.
to do
It's
it?
too congested now.
When are we going to do it? How can you expect a city? Bangalore is 770 square kilometers, right? It's expanding. Can a city of this size absorb a 2 crore population and expect that it will bring in more talent from outside? With the water problems we have, with the food problems we have, infrastructure problems we have, Bangalore is going to be dead if we continue this way.
Yeah, and it scares
We
me.
need more cities.
Just for people listening, we get water from 100 kilometers away. I was a water correspondent. So it's 100 kilometers of water from rivers to be pumped into the city.
Correct.
and that too upstream.
It is upstream. It's like my company's name. It is, it's from downstream upstream kind of thing. It's the reverse. And there's so much energy being wasted there. And on top of that, not many areas have water because of the digging that we're doing. It's gone up to 1,000 feet plus,
Yes.
Saket. 1,000 feet plus. That means salt water. We are hitting salt water, the brackish water at the bottom.
And we are consuming that water. What are the next generation?
They'll get, there's a condition for this. It's called fluorosis, where teeth become black. And maybe we see that. We saw that in Kolar because of drought 30 years
We
ago.
saw it in Mad Max.
We saw it in Mad Max as well. So we are living in strange times. Questions to each other. Any question that you want to ask him as an expert?
He is an expert.
No, not really.
But,
Okay. Let me end this podcast by saying, you gentlemen are always fascinating, fantastic. We wish to do more of this. Saket's requested you to do more of this. We follow him on
Absolutely.
YouTube anyway. It's Saket R,
Yeah.
right?
On YouTube.
On YouTube and on Insta.
Saket 15.
Saket 15. And this is the
BCL.
partner at BCL.
Yeah,
So that's Pawan. If you want to do family constitutions, compliance, regulatory,
Yes.
um,
we can't advertise.
lot
by
of
the way.
CA work, you can't. I'm talking about it, so it doesn't matter. So, right, here's the case. I want you to tell us about your company quickly.
So we basically.
What's it called?
My company is called as Quick Alpha.
Quick Alpha is the name of the company.
So we have multiple verticals where we focus on like investments and trading of our own.
Okay.
And we also do it for some HNIs and family offices. So we have another vertical of education. So like how we were mentioning before, I don't have any paid courses because I personally don't believe in selling it. Because I feel the person whom I sell to, I have to take money from him in trading industry. So I don't want to make him pay, or he will be taking money from me if he becomes really good. Right. So so then the other vertical is technology. So where we are trying to build B2C and B2B products around financial markets.
Now, I wish you all the best, and that's Quick Alpha, right?
Yeah.
Is that a website?
Yes, quickalpha.in.
Very nice, very nice.
Awesome.
In your case,
Yeah.
what's the next goal for you? You've been 200 companies, grown with the Indian startup ecosystem
Yes.
and the a lot of foreign companies coming here?
We want to work with more foreign companies. We've built expertise around the GCC center. Of course, Bangalore is the place to be for the GCCs. And we've built enough expertise within BCL to be able to serve them with confidence. Because what we want to do is when a foreign company comes to India, let them focus on business. We take care of all the compliances, right? We go through the regulatory maze, reporting maze that needs to be done so that they can focus completely on their business. Same with mature startups. If they need any assistance, we are there to help. And our goal, we like to create more jobs. That is what gives us a lot of happiness. Of course, clients give us a lot of happiness too, but creating more job opportunities for youngsters, not just in Bangalore, deeper into Karnataka, gives us a lot of happiness. So our 2 offices in Sirsi and Bangalore, these are tier 2, tier 3 cities, exceptional talent. And we want to make sure that we grow in size in these places.
No, I wish you both all the best. And people watching this, please do follow these gentlemen. It's going to be in the link in the YouTube. So follow them. Saket's going to promote this as well. He's our main man here, right? So, by the way, I'm Vishal from the Upstream Life. Guys, if you want to tell stories with us, corporate films, you want to do narratives for your stakeholders, we are here for you. We'll come over and do those stories for you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you, Shan.
Thanks so much.